Hi there, welcome back to the channel. If you've not been here before, then welcome for the first time. This channel is all about living with a Skoda EV. In this case, it's an Enyaq. It's my second Enyaq, but it also applies equally everything I say to the Elroq because it is pretty much just a shorter version of the Enyaq. This model is a 2024 car. It is the 85 edition and it's a coupe. So that means it's got pretty much the same standard fit out as a 2025 car. The newest Enyaq has got a new face on it, but otherwise it's near enough identical. This has got the new motor and it's got version 4 software, so it's got battery preconditioning, all that good stuff. So it's pretty much the experience you get if you buy a new Enyaq or Elroq today. So today I am driving south for 4 hours-ish and I'm going to an event called Connected North. Welcome to the wacky world of UK geographic descriptions. I have to head south for 4 hours to get to the north. It's a bit mad. When people talk about the north, they really mean the middle because they're talking about the north of England. Anyway, I'm going to an event down there today. It's in the centre of Manchester. That is around about 208 miles away. I've got the car park that I'm going to set in a better route planner. So how are we doing this morning? I've charged overnight to 100%. There's nothing wrong with charging to 100%. What the problem is with batteries is if you charge them to 100% and then leave them there, it stresses the battery. But for a trip like this, zero problems in charging to 100%. The car is guessing, and this isn't real range. I know there's a lot of new EV owners at the moment and they're saying, oh, I've never got the range that I was promised. I haven't got the range that was shown in the brochure. And when you ask them a little bit more about that, what they tell you is it's the number on the dashboard. That isn't real range necessarily. That is the computer predicting that you're going to get the same mileage or the same efficiency that you've had on your most recent drives. I think it's up to 50 or 60 miles, or maybe it's kilometers, I don't know, but it's based on your recent driving history and when it knows about the current conditions. So the car is predicting this morning 324 miles, but I know it's not going to achieve 324 miles because that is based on my local history driving around here locally, where I've been doing local runs to and from work into Edinburgh, and therefore that's reasonably efficient. I'm now going to do a high-speed motorway dash down the M6 and the M74, and therefore it's not going to be as efficient as that. I'm absolutely confident it will be fine. I'm not going to have any problems worrying about chargers. The M6 these days is particularly well equipped with chargers, so there is not a problem. Since my last video, I have taken out an Ionity subscription, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. It's with Skoda Power Pass, so I'll talk a little bit about that when I'm underway. But I need to get going because it's currently 6:15 or 6:17, and I need to be there by about 10 o'clock, so I'm under some pressure. So just a couple of words on how I've set the car up this morning. I don't really go into an awful lot of preparation. I may give the impression on some of my videos that I do, but really that's just to explain some of the differences about driving an EV, but in reality I just treat this nowadays like any other car. Right. So I've set the car into eco mode. That is really just to sort of tame the worst excesses of your right foot and maybe calm the air conditioning system down a little bit. But to be honest, let's try and get past this truck. Here's one of the benefits of having the new motor in the Enyaq. It really does take off very nicely, so when you need acceleration to get past a slow moving vehicle like that, it really is spot on, and that is in eco mode. So I wouldn't worry if anyone's concerned that eco mode is somehow going to really choke off the performance of the car. There's still plenty there. So why did I set the car in eco mode? Really just out of habit. I already drive in a fairly efficient way. I've just got used over 7 or 8 years now of driving EVs to how to drive efficiently and get the most out the battery. And if you want to see some tips about how to drive efficiently in the Enyaq or the Elroq, have a look back. I've got a couple of videos. I'll put links in the description below so you can find those more easily. But I regularly get decent mileage, decent efficiency out of the car on my daily runs, even locally in March and April, I've been getting north of 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which I know a lot of people from social media say, how on earth do you do that? I can never get better than 3.5. So it's all just about how you read the road. The car will do an awful lot to assist you in that. Even this morning, I've been finding the car has been assisting, there it is now, assisting with steering around bends, and it is very good at warning you because it knows the road layout, when to lift your foot off the accelerator, so I just do all that. But nevertheless, I'm stuck in eco mode. HVAC I find a bit inconsistent on the Enyaq. If it's in auto mode, I never seem to be able to get comfortable. It's always at some point in the journey either too hot or too cold, so I tend to put it on, I'll show you just now, press the climate button, and I leave it on manual. So you can see I've got it set at the moment on low because I'm quite warm enough, even though it's dropped down to 4.5 degrees outside, and I put the fan on 1. And that just basically, if you have it on low and fan speed 1, is blowing a little bit of fresh air up onto the screen of the windscreen of the car. So if you do find it chilly, then, and I probably will in a little while because it's looking like it's going to be foggy again and it's going to stay at 4.5 degrees, maybe even drop, then I'll put some heating on because I don't need to max the range out that much. I'm not going to be uncomfortable just for the sake of it. What I may have to do is I may have to stop, because usually on a journey of 3 or 4 hours I might need a quick leg stretch. I might be starting to get a little bit fatigued, and the highway code recommends stopping every 2 hours, something like that. And the other thing is I might need to go to the toilet, or I might want to stop and have a coffee, although I've got a flask of coffee in the car with me, so we shall see. Bottom line though is the car is not the limiting factor. This car is going to go to Manchester quite happily today, but I might be the limiting factor that means that the car has to stop. And if it does stop, or I do need to stop, then what I'll do is I'll make sure I stop somewhere that I can see there are chargers available. Again, you should be able to, well, I don't know if you can see, I can certainly feel the car is slowing because it knows that these bends are here. It knows it's a 60 mile an hour speed limit, but it knows that I can't drive around these bends at 60, so it is applying regen automatically. I don't have my foot on either the accelerator pedal or the brake pedal, and the car has slowed appropriately for these bends. And now I can accelerate away. I can see in the distance ahead of me there where that white car is. You can see it. There's some chevrons, so there's some bends up ahead. And again, the car's going to know about those, so I'll take my foot off the throttle now. And the car is slowing because it knows exactly how to get around these bends. It's a really very clever system, and it does mean you don't have to think about it after a while. You just become used to it, and so you kind of get in tune with the way that the car operates once you understand how it's operating, and it becomes quite a natural thing. It's not like the car's driving for you, because I don't have travel assist turned on, but what it is doing is it is assisting me gently, and I find that quite helpful. And again, there's a roundabout up ahead, so there's a symbol on the dash with a roundabout and a symbol on the dash with a foot being lifted off the pedal. That is it telling me there's a roundabout, slow down, take your foot off the throttle. So here we are, we joined the M74 now, and it's time to get on with Travel Assist, which is the fantastic Autopilot. I was trying to think of the word there. Autopilot is probably a Tesla term, but it is what it is. This is semi-autonomous driving, and I find this much better than the system I had on my Tesla Model 3, which I had before I bought Skoda. Similar in that it'll auto steer for you, and it will obviously recognise speed limits, all that good stuff. This one doesn't get freaked out by shadows from bridges or trucks, which the Tesla system did. I say did because I don't know if it still does it. Obviously that system will have been updated, but certainly what hasn't changed on the Tesla system is that if I want to change lanes and overtake, that would disengage the autopilot system on the Tesla. On this car, it doesn't. You can indicate, you can overtake, you can pull back in, and the autopilot just carries on working. So I'm going to engage that now. The way you do that is you pull back on the stalk here, it's down below the steering wheel, and that sets the speed. So it's set at 70. Press the button that's top right here on the steering wheel, travel assist, semi-auto assistance, and now the car will drive. And I can sit back and relax.
At this point in the video, having owned the car for 10 months, I thought it might be a good time to list off the top features that I like about the car and also some points I don't like about the car. A 10-month review of what it's like living with a Skoda Enyaq. Unfortunately, the GoPro had other ideas and it stopped recording halfway through. So what I'm going to do is I will take the footage I've got in the camera here and I will then record the rest of it and I'll publish those as a separate video later. In the meantime, back to the rest of my trip to Manchester.
Obviously, as I've said, I like using a better route planner, but I have paid for a subscription for that. It's something like £40 a year. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you just want to use what the car sat-nav offers? So if you look back at some of my older videos, you'll see in my old car it was a previous version of the sat-nav, previous software, and it wasn't as good. If you look at the really early videos from 2021, you will see that the car would default to telling you to go to 7 kilowatt chargers rather than 50 or 150 kilowatt chargers, just because the 7 kilowatt was closer. So clearly it was a pretty ropey system. All right if you were just going to be driving and navigating, but in terms of the charging integration it was pretty hopeless. So this new system is much better. I have put in the postcode I'm travelling to in Manchester, and it is saying exactly the same in terms of routing and distance that a better route planner was showing. So that's now 117 miles. We're going to get there at 10:21 in the morning. That's all good. And what this Skoda system actually does is it shows you at the right hand side some suggestions. So this little bar on the right shows me 10:21, 117 miles. It shows me that there will be a narrow road at some point. I'm not quite sure what that means. If I press it, it will show you that in 2.3 miles at 12 minutes past 8, so it's really specific, then the road will be narrowed. There are narrow lanes there on the M6 motorway, so that's really useful. Oh, that's interesting. We're passing an Enyaq on a trailer. Someone's clearly bought themselves a second-hand Enyaq. Anyway, what else does the car show me? Well, it actually suggests some places that I might want to fill up. In this case, is that really with petrol? Yes, it's suggesting a petrol station I might want to go to. So that really just shows this has not fully been set up with electric vehicles in mind. I've never actually seen that before. I've seen it suggest charges before, and when I actually decided to film this, it was suggesting a place where I might want to go for a cup of coffee and also somewhere I might want to go for a charge. But look at that, it's decided two places. One place I can go and get petrol, and another place I can stop for a coffee break. Madness. But the part I was really going to show you was interesting, or is of use, is this part up here. So people say, will it show me how much I'm going to arrive with, how much charge I'm going to arrive with? Well, yes it does. So you swipe across, you can see up there a visual representation, amber. Oh dear, amber battery. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm going to be in trouble? It's in 2.5 hours time. Yeah, it's 115 miles. I'm going to have 18% left. So that is still above the level I would really want to be at in order to get a really fast charge. So it's actually not an issue whatsoever. So what I'll do is I'll just drive all the way to Manchester and that will be absolutely fine. Now, I reckon in another 2.5 hours, I am absolutely going to be desperate for the toilet. So I don't want to wait all that time. But look, there it is. It's now suggesting, has that changed its, yeah, it's updated its guidelines. So it's suggesting I can go for Costa Coffee in Carlisle if I want to take a break, but that's going to be a bit of a detour off my route, an extra 5 minutes. Or I can go to Southwaite Services which are just off the motorway. That would obviously be a good example of where I could go, and they've got lots of chargers there, but they're expensive chargers, so I'm not going to use them. What I am going to do is I am probably going to stop for a toilet break, and like I said before, I'll try and combine that with a charge. So what I'll do is I'll drag it down from the top, look for charging stations. As you can see, there are plenty of charging stations round about. There's Southwaite, which is 3.5 miles ahead of me, 3.2 miles ahead of me, 140 kilowatt chargers. Those are new since I last came down here, and those are a big upgrade obviously, but they're expensive. There we go. Ionity at Carlisle, that's behind me now. Volvo at Carlisle, 175 kilowatt chargers. GridServe at Todd Hills, Tesla at Todd Hills. I've passed both of those, so it's not so brilliant at showing me on the list what's in front of me, but obviously it's showing me to the sides and behind as well as in front. So what I'll do is I will wait until I get down towards Lancaster, where I happen to know there is another Ionity charger, and I will go to that, have a quick toilet break, and then that'll be good. Actually, this is one feature of the sat-nav which is less good, and I suspect it's designed for left-hand drive, because yeah, I can look across here and I can see all this, but if I want to do any actual interacting with it, it's way over there on the left. If I want to search for a new destination, I have to reach across. Yes, I can use voice commands, but quite often you're going to want to do that. Even if I was sitting still, it's a stretch to get across there to see those. So yeah, that's not ideal. If I want to filter for charging stations, I can go by Ionity, I can go by Power Pass, and then I can filter according to that. Yeah, and I can go in here, filter for charging stations. Yes, I want to show Ionity, that's fine. And I think it's either Preston or Lancaster, the next Ionity. Yeah, there we are. Ionity Lancaster North. That's in another 49 miles. So yeah, that's probably where I'm going to want to go. So what I'll do is I will set that. And I'll add that as a stopover onto my route. And what that will do, which a better route planner would not, is that will now pre-warm the battery for getting there, so that I will get the fastest possible charge and I'll get on board as much of that Ionity discounted power as I possibly can. So it's a great new feature on the latest 2024-2025 models of the Enyaq, and obviously it's present on all Elroqs as well. So that battery preconditioning feature is not available on the first generation Enyaqs, those made before 2024. However, Skoda are struggling really hard to try and get something sorted out on that front. And a little WhatsApp message popped up earlier on from one of my contacts at Skoda, and he was telling me about something which my neighbour has been beta testing, and that is a battery temperature app which is on the screen for the first generation Enyaqs. And what my contact was telling me was that that is now finished in beta testing, and they are hoping, he will confirm later for me, that that will be released to those first generation Enyaqs today. So by the time you see this, it'll be old news. But I think that is proof that they are desperately trying to do something for those first generation Enyaq owners. People who say they've been abandoned by Skoda, they've been telling us for a while that they are not. They are still trying to work something out for you guys. People are very skeptical, people are very cynical about what big companies are doing, but honestly they are trying to do something. They may not get it to the standard that these cars are at, but they will be. They are doing something. And now that I've added the charging stop, or rather the toilet stop with charging on the side, it's showing you there that I'm going to get to Lancaster North, which is in 50 miles. I'm going to get there at 8:56, so we've got another 46 minutes to go, and it'll show me there I will arrive with 40% battery. So the Skoda system is actually really very good. I'd say it's at least as good as the system I had in my Tesla. Probably, has it got the edge? I would say yes, it does, because Okay, I'm using a Volkswagen affiliated charger today in Ionity, but I could use any charger. The car will precondition for any charger that I am navigating to, or I can even manually trigger the battery preconditioning. On my Tesla, you had no real visibility of it, no control over it, you couldn't start it yourself, and it would only precondition if you were going to a Tesla supercharger. And I sometimes go to places where there are no Tesla superchargers. I was going to say in Northern Ireland, but they've just opened one where I go in Northern Ireland, so that maybe argument disappears. But the point being, if there wasn't a Tesla supercharger on my route and I wasn't in a convenient place for me to stop, then the car wouldn't precondition unless I lied and told it I was going to a supercharger, but then the sat-nav was directing me places where I wasn't wanting to go. So it was a bit of a workaround, a bit of a fudge, and it wasn't ideal. Right, I have been driving for 2 hours and 40 minutes and I need to go to the toilet. Coming up to Lancaster, where there is an Ionity charger. I think it's at a McDonald's, if I remember rightly. Anyway, I'm going to pull off here and maybe grab a coffee. I've got a flask of coffee with me actually, so I don't need to grab a coffee. I'm going to go in to use the toilet, and then what I'll do is I'll plug in the car, it will just start charging automatically and charge for as long as it takes me to go in and go to the toilet, because the sat-nav seems to be varying wildly in the time it thinks I'm going to get to Manchester by up to an hour. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the traffic down in Manchester, but it's showing currently that I'll be there at 10:39. No doubt that's incorporating some time at the charger here at Lancaster, but as I say, I don't plan to stay for long. You can see the battery has been preheating, so we're currently at 40% state of charge, and it says I will then charge, even preheated, at 75 kilowatts. So we'll see what we manage to get. What I'll do, I'll not bother filming the charger. You've seen an Ionity charger before, and what I will do is I'll overlay later on the charging graph from Tronity. Okay, so I plugged in, charging started using plug and charge brilliantly, ran inside the McDonald's, went to the toilet, come back out, 8 minutes of charge. It peaked at 103 kilowatts and I put on board 13 kilowatt hours, sorry. So I pulled in at 40%, I'm leaving at 56%, and I'm good to get back on the road. So let's head for Manchester. So I've arrived in Manchester. Hopefully this will get picked up. My GoPro, my more modern GoPro over there, seems to have decided to give up the ghost and is not responding to any controls. So without stopping, I can't bring back that view. But hopefully the microphone on the GoPro that's mounted on the roof will pick this up. I arrived in Manchester, and as you can see, there is a lot of congestion. I've been stuck in this for about the last 15-20 minutes. This is a great example of where the travel assist system is brilliant. I think they actually Skoda overcomplicate their assist systems. I think they call this traffic jam assist, which, as you might guess from the name, means that the car will adjust to traffic jam. So I'm not doing any controlling of the throttle or the brakes here. The car's doing everything itself. But in terms of the overall journey, we have got 38% left in the battery. So that I put in 15% when I was up in Lancaster. So yeah, I'd arrived here. I would have arrived here comfortably with 22% left, which is absolutely fine. So the car has performed brilliantly. Like I said, if I hadn't been weak as a human and had to stop, this car could have got here quite comfortably. I still had 22% left in the battery, which is more than it needs to get a really fast charge. So no issues whatsoever with the car. We've been driving now for 3 hours and 41 minutes, travelled 206 miles, and over that it has averaged 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour. So it's obviously a lower efficiency than I would have been getting recently, driving around in Edinburgh, but I'm quite happy with that. Driving at the speed limit throughout, and it's been fairly uneventful in terms of traffic and so on. So on the road, the car has been locked at 70 miles an hour, and it's been really smooth journey, no issues whatsoever. In terms of what it's guessing it's got left now, so it's 37%, and it's now guessing with that lower efficiency level, there's got 106 miles left if I continue driving on the motorway. I'm sure if I drive around Manchester for the next couple of days, then it would rise up again and indicate an increased range. But that's the whole nature of the prediction. Anyway, that's the end of part one of this trip, arriving in Manchester. I'm driving back tomorrow, so I will film a little bit of that and just show you how it works on the return leg.